Yo, what is up guys, Delboy here. A quick preview and prediction for Errol Spence Jr. versus Shawn Porter. This fight is obviously a welterweight unification. Errol Spence holds the IBF welterweight title and Shawn Porter holds the WBC welterweight title. The fight goes down on the 28th of September and it takes place at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. Great venue, in my opinion. At the Staples Center, there's something in the air. There's been a lot of great fights at the Staples Center. Hopefully this is another one. But listen, man, really looking forward to this fight. It's a fight that is great for the division and it's great for boxing, Two top guys in the division, two champions going at it. And stylistically, it should be a good, interesting fight. So, listen, I'm super excited for this fight, it must be said. Let's briefly go through the tale of the tape of both fighters, and we will start with the IBF champion, Errol Spence Jr. He has a perfect record of 25-0, 21 of those 25 wins coming by way of knockout. Shawn Porter has a record of 30 wins, 2 defeats, 1 draw, 17 of those 30 wins coming by way of knockout. Both defeats on Shawn Porter's resume were close fights and they were losses to top guys in Keith Thurman and Kell Brook. So he's only lost to the best guys and they were close fights. And as you can see, Shawn Porter has more fights than Errol Spence Jr. and he is the more experienced fighter. He's been in there with Kell Brook, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, Yordenis Ugas, Devin Alexander, Paulie Malignaggi, Adrian Broner, Andre Berto. He's been in there with a lot of names and a lot of quality opposition. Shawn Porter is more experienced and he's more battle tested, so that's something to consider going into this fight. Let's briefly talk about the height and reach of both guys. Errol Spence Jr., he is listed as 5'9.5" with a 72-inch reach, whereas Shawn Porter is listed as 5'7" with a 69.5-inch reach. So Errol Spence Jr. is 2.5 inches taller and he has a 2.5-inch reach advantage. So Errol Spence has the height and reach advantage, and overall he's just a big welterweight. So size-wise, Errol Spence certainly has the advantage on that side. By the way, Shawn Porter is an orthodox fighter and Errol Spence Jr. is a southpaw. So there's the tale of the tape, and let's go on to the style clash and how we think this is going to play out. Now, I've got to say, I am making Errol Spence Jr. a favourite. I believe overall he has the majority of the advantages going into this fight. He is the more physically imposing guy, taller, longer, like I mentioned. But not only that, he has that amateur background, that Olympic pedigree, and I believe Errol Spence Jr. is a better technical boxer than Shawn Porter. I believe he's got more versatility, more variety, and for me he's just got more tools in the toolbox on top of being a bigger, maybe even stronger guy. For me, the type of fight this develops into is basically on Shawn Porter, depending on Shawn Porter's tactics. Now, Shawn Porter, for me, against Yordenis Ugas, he tried to box more. Didn't work. Ugas, slick, tall, rangy guy. And I felt Porter got his tactics totally wrong against Yordenis Ugas. That never worked. Boxing with Ugas was a terrible decision, and I felt he lost that fight. But he also boxed with Danny Garcia, a guy with flatter feet, slower feet, and a guy with wider punches. So Shawn Porter, when he was boxing with Danny Garcia, actually was having more success. He was getting in and out, he was landing that jab, he was landing that quick right hand behind it, and I felt Shawn Porter boxed quite effectively against Danny Garcia when he chose to box. And I think he's going to adopt the same game plan against Errol Spence Jr., the same one he did against Danny Garcia and the same one he did against Yordenis Ugas. I believe Shawn Porter will be boxing in large portions of this fight. I think he will try and take advantage of Errol Spence's slowish feet. Errol Spence is kind of flat-footed, and I think Shawn Porter will try to, basically expose that and exploit that. But will it work? Like Danny Garcia, yes, Errol Spence does have fairly slow feet, but Errol Spence has much better straight punching than Danny Garcia, and he's longer than Danny Garcia. We saw how Shawn Porter struggled with the reach of Yordenis Ugas. He was getting caught with that right hand, and he struggled with range when he tried to box with Yordenis Ugas. I could potentially see something similar happening in this fight. I could see Shawn trying to stand off Errol and pick his moments and box in spots, but when it's on the outside, I wouldn't be surprised to see Errol Spence catch Shawn Porter with that long southpaw jab and also that left hand behind it. And if Shawn Porter decides to rush in from the outside, which he does sometimes, Errol Spence can shorten his punches quite well. And again, I could see Errol Spence timing Shawn Porter coming in, when Shawn Porter tries to rush to the inside. So I think it's imperative that Shawn Porter actually, quickens his feet up to get to the inside, and also uses that ramrod jab to get to the inside. Shawn Porter's got a beautiful jab when he uses it. He's got a jab where he really steps into the jab. He'll close the distance, step into the jab, catch you, and then he's on the inside. And that's when he swarms you, If Shawn Porter is to revert to type and, use that swarming style, then, he needs to find creative ways to get to the inside, because Errol Spence's game on the outside is underrated, and I think Errol Spence's mid-range game is very good, So Shawn Porter needs to find creative ways to get past those obstacles, and the jab is one of them. Also, we need to see Shawn Porter feint and, give Errol Spence something to think about, because sometimes Shawn Porter is guilty of just rushing straight in, and if a fighter can time that and he gets used to that, he recognises the pattern, that's when you could see Porter getting timed rushing in. So Porter, use that jab on the way in, try to change it up with feinting, keep Errol Spence guessing. He just needs to be creative to get to the inside. But for whatever reason, I just think this guy is going to box. Similar to the Garcia fight. He'll have his moments when he gets to the inside. He is Shawn Porter after all, but I don't think that's going to be his main game plan. For some reason, I don't know why. It's just what I've seen from Shawn Porter in the last couple of fights. Me personally, I would like to see Shawn Porter solely try to pressure Errol Spence Jr., try to smother Errol Spence, and see how that works out, essentially. Because Errol Spence is a guy, when he's got time and space, the guy looks like he's a force. But what happens if you actually pressure this guy, get on his chest, smother him, etc.? What happens then? Will he be as effective? Is he strong enough to keep Shawn Porter at bay? Is his inside game to that level where he can neutralise Porter's ruggedness but also get his own work off? If Porter can get to the inside on a regular basis, I think this fight is very interesting, but the difficulty is getting to the inside. That's the difficulty for Shawn Porter in this fight. Like I say, I've got a feeling this guy's going to stand off Errol Spence a bit too much, and I think that plays into Errol Spence's hands. I'm just basing that on what I've seen from Shawn Porter in the Ugas fight and the Danny Garcia fight. But ultimately, going into this fight, I'm really intrigued by the style clash. If Shawn Porter can implement his game plan, I am interested to see how Errol Spence looks. But regardless, even if Shawn Porter does, get the fight to where he wants it, I still believe Errol Spence will win this fight on points. I believe he's obviously the fresher guy. He has more in the tank, and for me, he is the crisper, better boxer. So I believe even if this fight is messy, which it could be, I think it will be a case of Errol Spence is the guy landing the cleaner, more effective shots, whereas a lot of Porter's work could be rough, rugged, and hard to score. Similar to Porter's fight against Kell Brook. I expect a competitive fight. I expect a grueling fight, but a fight that I'm picking Errol Spence to win on points. I mean, if Errol Spence gets a knockout in this fight, I will be mightily impressed. I know Shawn Porter's been dropped by Broner, and he's been hurt a couple of times in his career, but for the most part, Porter has shown great toughness, a good chin, and he's got the will of a champion. So if Errol Spence stops Shawn Porter, That's a hell of a statement. But I'm expecting a points win for Errol Spence Jr. I just believe he will have a bit too much. And yeah, Errol Spence Jr. should win this fight on points. From an outsider looking in, looking at other people's previews, other people's thoughts on this fight, you know, I get the impression that a lot of people see this as competitive. A lot of people see this as potentially a good fight. But most people are in agreement that Errol Spence is a huge favourite. So I feel the same way. I've got Errol Spence Jr. on points. But, you know, he needs to keep his eye on the ball. He can't underestimate Shawn Porter. I mean, if you underestimate Shawn Porter, it really is at your peril. So I believe Errol Spence is sensible enough to take this seriously. And from what I see in training, he's taking it seriously. So, yeah, we've got Errol Spence to win this fight on points. What about you guys? Who have you got winning? Do you guys give Shawn Porter a chance? Are you picking Shawn Porter? Or like me, are you picking Errol Spence Jr.? Share your thoughts below. Peace.